I think our music in this country would have benefited greatly had our churches had a sense of community in which we could share and learn from each other. Interestingly, when our music became closer was when, I remember years ago, a program called People Get Ready, presented by John Francis. I have a feeling Trevor Phillips was involved as a producer back at that time. I remember being on a panel, a judging panel, around then too. And when we participated in those non-church activities, the churches were brought together in those spaces, but we did not voluntarily bring ourselves together. And in fact, such were the sometimes hostility and competition between churches that you were forbidden to go to another church, even to worship. You know, if you're out of town, you find one of your own church and you go to. The London Community Gospel Choir, I mean, I know Basil Mead well, and Basil tells a story of how much difficulty he had when he established the London Community Gospel Choir, because he drew people from across the various denominations.
I used to work with Beverly and Lice at the age of 14. Beverly used to come from school and come to the Sam Sharp Project, record his songs with her friends, and then go back home. You know, that's the kind of environment it was.
We would go and rehearse on a Friday night down at Sam Sharp, down in Wolverhampton, for those guys that know that, because that was a local spot for a lot of musicians that went to play and rehearse back in Wolverhampton. And we were not only playing covers, but was also writing our own songs. So we would write a song and rehearse it on the Friday night, and we were singing in Nottingham on the Saturday night, the same song. But we could play it anyhow we wanted, because nobody knew what this song was and how it should go. So it was like we had a captive audience, because we were writing songs on a Friday and singing it on a Saturday.
I'll never forget, the choir had a meeting, and the meeting took the sort of tone of, you will not do any more secular music if you're going to play for the choir. And I was like, I don't know if I can promise you that, because I want to do music. I want to do it as a career, and you are obviously not interested in a career in it, so let me do what I'm doing. So that sort of formed the wedge where I was on my way out of it, to be honest with you.
And interestingly, it is as the secular world started to move in to spot the talent and started to pull people out of not that they were necessarily trying to pull them out, but they were engaging them and paying them, that churches suddenly were beginning to realize that, well, we were losing some of those individuals. And guess what? They were going places and being paid to play the very music that we expect them to provide the music for, to provide practice time, and to turn up and make sure they perform. But we didn't take any account of the cost that they would incur in so doing.
The going rate at the time was a ginger beer
and a patty.
And we went to London one time. We'd hired a van, I had speakers, everything, the lot. We went to London, did the concert, and when we came by, the lady gave us 2 patty and a ginger beer, and she said, "You're lucky, you get 2."
Not realising you'd had to spend your money to get the equipment.
"You're lucky, you get 2, mate."
I started to find my way into working professionally, and one of the biggest turning points was meeting Michael, my business partner. Michael was a member of Musical Youth, and they had just had their Pass the Dutchie hit, and things were really massive for them. And I remember meeting Michael. Funnily enough, it was on a session that I was doing, and he heard me play guitar, and he was like, "I want you to play some guitar for me." I was like, "Okay." So ended up playing with Michael on a session, and we hit it off straight away. And he was like, "Why are you not doing massive session work? I mean, why are you guys?" I said, "You know what? There's a lot of good musicians in the church that are not recognized because the church has told them they can't play secular music. And it was Michael's first introduction to a church musician. I remember going into it, he had this band that I went to start rehearsing with. And I remember I went in and we started rehearsing, and Michael was like, I can't believe you play guitar like this and I don't know who you are. I said, well, because I just played in church. I said, I'm not extraordinary. There's a lot of great musicians in the church. And he was like, I don't believe this. I can't believe it. I've been struggling for musicians. And I said, do you want to find church guys, man? And at the time, I was probably one of the first guys up here to go outside of church to play something.
One day I was in the studio and I had a phone call, and I says, hello. And he says, hi, this is Ronnie Jordan. I says, hi, yeah. John called me, said he was going to give me a call. He says, yeah. He said, I need a bass player for this tour in Japan in 1995, this was. And I says, oh, yeah. He says, I want you to play. I says, no problem. I says, when's the audition? He says, no audition. He says, John spoke highly of you, so I'm just going to bring you straight in. I went, okay. He says, my tour manager will phone you and discuss the fees and all that. I says, no problem. So the tour manager phoned me, discussed the fees. He says, yeah, it'll be £500 for the week, well, for 10 days in Japan. He says, we're doing Tokyo, Nagoya and Osaka. I says, no problem, hotel's paid for, flights paid for, everything's paid for. And you get £500. I says, yeah, great. We got to rehearsals. Rehearsals was for a week. Rehearsed at John Henry's, and like the final day, he said, oh, can I have your invoice before we fly out? I says, yeah, okay. I said, how much was it for again? And he went into the thousands. And I says, well, didn't you say it was £500? He says, yeah, £500 if you wasn't good. He says, we were taking it, you never had an audition, you came straight in, but you know, we heard you were good, but now you've proved that you're good. And he gave me the proper fee. I nearly fainted because I'd never had that much money on a gig before. And from that, I played for Ronnie Jordan for 8 years after that.
Church didn't want you to kind of really do that, but actually, you know, I was enjoying it, and the way I know God was covering me, because God covered me, because I did see drug taking, I did see, you know, profound and obscene things and whatever, but the way I look at it, God was in my heart and God was in my life, and He said, yeah, you're just here to do a job, do that, but you let them do that over there. And I never partaked in it. And actually, I lost a gig because I wouldn't smoke cannabis.
It's a fine line between what we do, because you can also get caught up with the glitz and the glam of what the world is and what music can offer you outside, and forget where you're coming from.
When you used to turn on the TV and you're looking, yeah man, I know him. Oh my God, look, see songs on there, because they're rocking it out and it sounds good, and everybody, you see the Ross, everybody on there, and it's good. And it's just pure black brothers running the thing. When you look in the band, you might look if you find one white person in there. Now, you look in the band, you're lucky if you see any of our people in there. Why? Because they've taken what we've had, that we've shown them how we play in the church and everything else, and now they don't need us.
I'd be on tour, and then sometimes, you know, you're on tour, you can't even get to go to church because your itinerary is that tight. You can't go to church. So as soon as I landed and I put my bags in my house, I'd be on my way. If it was a Sunday, I'd be going to church Sunday morning. I'd probably be the first one in the church, sat down there at the back, and people come in and say, Brother Ian, I thought you was over here. Says, I come back this morning, just needed church.
One of the things that we struggle with within church and performing and so forth, not that we did it to get paid, but when you look at how it occurs outside of church, if you're going to book an artist, they get paid. And within sort of many of the functions growing up within the church, a lot of the stuff we did for free. We were paying our own way, paying our petrol there, our own food and so forth. And over time it changed and it has improved. But I think what's very important is when events are done, look after your artists. look after your artists. I'm not saying pay them a fortune, but pay them something that makes them feel appreciated. If they're having to come to your function and they're buying their own food and they're paying their own petrol, and you know, if they're paying for tickets to get them, which is a no-no. But the point is, make them feel not so much like celebrities, but celebrate them. Absolutely. And let them feel as though it is an honor for you to have them come. Because what that does, it raises their level of performance and presentation.
And credibility.
And they don't feel taken advantage of.
I'll go a step further. Recognise the artists, because you see front of house, don't you? You want to see the work that goes on behind the house.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of your PA, I mean, look at this tonight.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, you're seeing us,
right,
but you don't know the amount of work that's going
right.
on for this whole set, this whole series of interviews, and the work that it's going to take to edit and put it all together. Right. Because there'll be people out there whose creative spirit is not front of house. Yeah?
Yeah.
But again, they should be celebrated
Absolutely.
and rewarded for what they do.
Absolutely.
I said that they need to be supported and recognised for what they do.
You ever talk and watch? Oh.
I'm sorry.
He's sorry.